Joining us to talk about this is, an old-fashioned liberal, I always describe John. Somebody who's been on the left side of the political spectrum for probably all of his life, actually, to be fair. We were on opposite sides of the Springbok tour, but I always admire consistency and the integrity of feelings. I think our next guest has that in spades. He's the national chair of the Palestinian Solidarity Organisation. It's John Minto. John, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on.
Oh, Michael, it's a real pleasure to be here.
First of all, can I say we're on opposite sides during the Springbok tour? You know,
Yep.
And we agreed to disagree and stuff like that. We probably still do. But the thing that I liked, John, and can I just say how much I admired you for your integrity, was that when you were asked to go to South Africa and say, celebrate the overturning of apartheid, you said, wait on, this isn't what I wanted nor expected. I wanted real democracy and real improvement in the lives of black workers in South Africa, and that hasn't happened. I have to say...
No, it hasn't.
And I admired you enormously for that, and I still do. But you also have another role. You're the national chair of the Palestinian Solidarity Organisation. Before we talk about what's happened over the last couple of days, can you tell me what that is exactly?
Well, it's a network of groups around the country. Probably 10 or 12 groups that we have that are kind of linked together in a network. So we organise, for example, if there's a United Nations International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, which comes up in late November every year, then we'll kind of coordinate organising activities around the country. So it's that kind of thing. So we're a solidarity group. We're not a Palestinian group per se, but we've got lots of Palestinians who are in the organisation on our committee and an active part of it.
Now, your aim as an organisation is to help what? There be an independent homeland for the Palestinian people?
Well, our aim is to support Palestinian aspirations for self-determination. Unfortunately, it's no longer possible for there to be a separate Palestinian state. The so-called two-state solution is now dead because for the last 40 years, Israel has been increasingly moving Israelis into illegal settlements on Palestinian land. And so they've turned the West Bank, the occupied West Bank of Palestine, into like a piece of Swiss cheese. So they've set up all these hundreds of illegal settlements. When I say illegal, it's illegal under international law, under the Fourth Geneva Convention. But anyway, they've moved their Israeli population into these areas and then joined them up with Israeli-only roads, so that all the Palestinian communities are in shrinking groups of shrinking bits of land, and the tension has been building up. And to be frank, we knew something would break out. I was surprised at the extent of the Hamas operation, and appalled at some aspects of it, but not surprised at that they are fighting back because the rest of the world, frankly, has ignored them.
Okay. Before we come to, as I said, the events of the last 48 hours, is it your view that the two-state solution that I think the United Nations were in support of and various Western nations as well is wrong? Do you want to see the dismantling of Israel? Israel has precluded a two-state solution. It's Israeli policies which have prevented a two-state solution going ahead. Some Palestinians still hanker for a two-state solution, but the majority of Palestinians are now saying we want a single secular state where everybody has equal rights. The similar solution to the one which developed in South Africa, where everybody under their constitution, all racial groups are respected and supported and protected by the constitution, and everybody has equal rights. So does that mean, in your view, that Israel has to cease to exist? Oh, Israel, as it is today, absolutely. I mean, today Israel is an apartheid state, and just as white South Africa had no right to exist as an apartheid state, neither does Israel. And as I said, Israel, if they wanted to remain a state of Israel. They had to provide for the Palestinian people, and they've refused at every opportunity to do that.
So, sorry, but I'm just trying to clarify exactly. So if Israel elected I don't know, a socialist Labour government, for example, there have been them in the past, and said, listen, we accept that Palestine can have their own operation, and listen, we'll give back a little bit of the West Bank here, and we won't block the Gaza and stuff like that. You would still support Israel existing as a separate state?
Whatever happens has to end up being something which is supported by the Palestinian people, right? It's not my job to say,
So the Palestinian people say, no, we don't want an Israel state, we want the state dissolved, which is pretty much the aim of Hamas. You would support that?
Well, no, that's not been the aim of Hamas. Hamas has had a policy of they actually recognised Israel as a state in their constitution. They've not been trying to, they have not been trying to drive Israelis into the sea, as Israel keeps saying. That's simply not true. They accepted the Palestinian. They accepted Israel's existence as a Jewish state, but Israel has simply not responded to any of that, because what Israel wants, and this is the key point, what Israel wants, it wants all of the land of Palestine without the people. That's what its objective is. And because the West, because countries like New Zealand and the Western world have not forced Israel to allow a Palestinian state to develop, Israel's just gone ahead and stolen more and more land, and every day of the week.
John, I've read the Hamas declaration when they first formed their organisation. And
true. Yes,
okay.
Yes, true. The
Hamas declaration, they make it very clear they do not want Israel to exist.
No, that's true. Yeah, and then they developed their policy, and they came out in about 2017, I think, and accepted that the Israeli state was there, and that they would respect it. And they said they would, but they wanted to get a Palestinian state going, and they weren't going to just allow the status quo situation to continue.
Can I ask you a question? Because you must find it rather strange. Unlike South Africa, in this particular case, you've got the Gaza Strip controlled by Hamas, and you've then got the Palestinian organisation. It's almost Palestine is split politically between Hamas and non-Hamas.
Yes, they are geographically split and politically split. But I think the Palestinian Authority is the other group which you're talking about.
Palestinian Authority.
And the Palestinian Authority. Now, the Palestinian Authority has very, very limited support. That's the group that the New Zealand government keeps saying, and America keeps saying, that are the representatives of the Palestinian people. But they're no longer representatives of the Palestinian people, because they haven't had elections. They have in fact colluded with Israel not to have elections, because if they had elections, Hamas would win. The public opinion polls say Hamas would win the whole thing. Hamas won the election in 2006. It won the election, certainly right across Gaza. The people supported Hamas, and at that point, the West Bank and Gaza became separated politically. But what Palestinians need, and what they've been calling for, are elections. They want elections to be held. Israel doesn't want elections, neither does the US, and neither does the Palestinian Authority. But Palestinians want the elections.
Okay. Now, it's the Palestinian Liberation Organisation, I think, is Fatah, is it? F-A-T-H? They're the primary party there, and they're mostly...
Well, they're primary party in the Palestinian Authority, yes.
Yeah. And then you've got Hamas.
But they have such tiny minority support now. They're such a small group, in terms of public opinion. But they're the ones that get the funding from Israel, and they effectively act as a security contractor for Israel. So there is deep resentment and often open hatred and hostility from Palestinians towards the Palestinian Authority, because it hasn't stood up for Palestinians. It's stood up and done Israel's dirty work for it.
All right. And Mahmoud Abbas, I think, is the president currently of the Palestinian Authority. He's been around since...
Yes, he is.
Oh, gosh, almost 20 years. But just going back to the last 48 hours, according to Hamas, they released 5,000 rockets. They don't have guidance mechanisms on them, those. They just go.
Yep.
They have invaded Israel, mostly civilian areas. They have taken hostages. They've massacred 260 people at a music festival. I would imagine that there's no way in the world that you can condone those actions.
Any attack on civilians is a war crime, whether it's done by Hamas or whether it's done by Israel. Just an interesting number, 250. So far this year, before the last 48 hours, more than 250 Palestinians have been killed by Israel just this year alone. 40 of them children. And yet the world has not noticed. The world just turns a blind eye. New Zealand has turned a blind eye. We've been trying to get the government to speak out about it because tensions have been rising. We've said, you can't let Israel get away with this. Israel, you've got to speak out. The government wouldn't. New Zealand government refused. All the Western world just ignored it. 250 Palestinians killed. But when Israeli lives come under threat, the Western world runs around like chickens with their heads chopped off and saying, oh, terrorism, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is. We do not condone terrorist acts because and attacks on civilians is terrorism, which is why we call out Hamas, but we also call out the Israeli Defence Force when they do the same thing.
Okay, all right, so you're being consistent.